Here is the podcast script. A bitter historical feud is now threatening one of Europe's most critical wartime alliances, the partnership between Ukraine and Poland. The headline from the New York Times says it all. A dispute rooted in World War II has escalated so sharply that Poland's president said he would revoke his country's highest state honor from Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, and Zelensky said he'd return it first. So what set this off? On May 26, Zelensky signed a decree honoring Ukrainian partisan army fighters from World War II, known by the acronym UPA. To Ukrainians, the UPA represents a symbol of armed resistance against the Soviet Union. But to Poles, the UPA is synonymous with something far darker, the massacre of tens of thousands of Polish civilians in 1943, in what the Polish parliament has designated the Volhynia genocide. Historians estimate around 80,000 Polish civilians were killed in that campaign of ethnic cleansing, alongside roughly 10,000 Ukrainian civilians. The reaction was swift and fierce. Polish President Karol Nawrocki called the decree outrageous and damaging to trust between our nations. Zelensky fired back with a sharp retort, noting that Poland had not revoked similar honors previously given to figures like Benito Mussolini and Gerhard Schroeder, the Kremlin-friendly former German chancellor. Then Ukrainian political figures started returning their Polish state awards one by one as Zelensky's chief of staff, his foreign minister, and then 3 former Ukrainian presidents all handed theirs back. Now here's why this matters beyond the diplomatic theater. Poland is not just Ukraine's neighbor. It is arguably Ukraine's most important logistical lifeline. The vast majority of American and European weapons, ammunition, and military aid flowing into Ukraine passes through Polish bases, highways, and railroads. Fraying that relationship doesn't just create awkward headlines, it puts real pressure on the Eastern Front against Russia. And that, analysts say, is exactly the problem. Alexandra Iwaniuk, a Ukrainian political scientist at the University of Warsaw, put it bluntly, Russia is opening the champagne now. She said both sides have been reckless, dipping into historical grievances for short-term domestic political gain while Moscow sits back as the ultimate beneficiary. Both sides are strategically shooting themselves in the foot while the one who is winning is Moscow, she said. Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk, a consistent supporter of Ukraine, appears to be the voice trying to pull things back from the edge. He called the conflict a gift to Putin and a shock to Western allies, and urged both presidents to calm emotions rather than fuel them. The front line, he said, is elsewhere. But Tusk faces a painful political calculation of his own. If he refuses to sign off on revoking Zelensky's award, he risks alienating a significant slice of Polish public opinion that leans nationalist. And nationalist sentiment in Poland has been hardening. Far-right politician Sławomir Mencen, who captured 14% of the vote in last year's presidential elections, suggested Ukraine should return not just the awards, but also the money, weapons, ammunition, and everything else Poland has provided. That reflects a broader shift in Polish attitudes toward the more than 2 million Ukrainian refugees still living in the country, attitudes that have, according to analysts, spilled visibly onto the streets. Zelensky did strike a more conciliatory note near the end of his public response, saying Ukraine remains open to dialogue on difficult and painful chapters of shared history, and committed to respecting all innocent victims. Whether that's enough to pull the two countries back from a damaging rupture at precisely the moment they can least afford one remains to be seen. This is a story about how the wounds of the past can still bleed into the present, even when two nations share an urgent common cause.